Hey, welcome back to Jamieson's Repair Shop. Today we're going to change the spindle bearings in my mower deck. This is an MTD Yardworks, I think it's a Yardworks, yard machine, sorry, I just see it over there. It's a 38-inch cut deck, twin blade, nothing special, pretty basic stuff. Around here, you get them at Canadian Tire, these units. Anyway, I lost the bearings in one of the spindles, so I decided to fix that problem. And I looked at new spindles, and they aren't expensive. They're 50 bucks a piece. Amazon, I think 50, 55 or whatever it is. Doesn't matter. There's a whole host of different spindles that are available. As long as you get the right ones, I don't think it matters. They all have the same bearings in them. That's what I'm going to explain in this video. There's a couple of things I saw in those spindles that are for sale, and we'll talk about that. So let's get on with it. I'll bring you in closer. Like I say, I have one already out, and I have rebuilt it already, which is a very simple job. This won't take long, and I think you'll understand why I chose to rebuild them rather than buy new ones. All right, so let's get at it. All right, first thing, you'll need a couple of tools. Now this is, I don't have my glasses on. The 13 millimeter, half-inch would be roughly the same. And for this particular spindle, you need I think it's a 15/16 for these big nuts. For the blade nut, 15/16. And it's actually the same nut on the pulley side. So first I'm going to flip it back over, and we'll pull the guard off over the pulley. So let me get this stuff out of the way. Over here. And we'll just do a quick flip over. You sawhorses are garbage. Alright, so we have the belt. You can see where I tied back with a bungee cord the braking mechanism to keep it off the pulley. So it's out of the way. And the guard itself is it's only a half-inch, 13 millimeter, just like so. You do it by hand. I'm using the electric impact. It's fine. There's the guard. Don't lose the bolts. You'll need them to reinstall. Set them aside, in place you're not going to lose them. I'm bad for that. Pull the belt aside, you can do what you want with that. So now that's done. I'll go underneath, and it's the same deal. I'll just flip it over so you can see. It's pretty straightforward stuff. And this deck, before I put it back in the mower, I'm going to rust paint where the powder coat has come off. But anyway, that won't be on this video. It's not just painting. And there are many different types of decks, but they seem to all have very similar spindles. So let's get rid of that nut, the blade. I marked it. Oh, how come I don't have that? All right, just give me a second. I need my other impact, so hold on, I'll get right back. I don't have the right size drive. This is too big. All right. Okay, back with my air cap, and I mean, you can do all this with just wrenches and ratchets if you want, but I'm going to use the air cap because it's quick. Simple. Unplug that so we don't have to listen to that air leaking, which I need to change that air fitting. Pull the blade off. I marked them down. You can tell by the shape of them, but sometimes I get mixed up. So set it aside. And you should sharpen them while it's off, but that's up to you. Do what you want. There's the big nut. Get rid of this again. Set it with the other nuts. Now, I'm just going to pull it off here now with the half-inch. Pull the spindle out. There. Spindle's removed, just like so. Again, save the bolts, don't lose them. So now I'll get the air cat out again and we'll take this one off. There it is. Get out of the way so we don't have to listen to it. There's the pulley. Now you'll see what happened there. This is how simple this is. So we got a spacer. So we got the pulley. We got a spacer. And of course the nut goes on that. Now these just slip right out, like so. That shaft will pull right out. And inside there's a couple of sleeves that separate the shafts. So once you pull the bearings out, or if your bearings are completely gone and it all falls out together, just remember the orientation of those bushings inside. They might be different. So they're just spacers in there, and one has a collar on it. So set the shaft aside. So now you have to get the bearings out. So I'm going to move us over to my vise, and we'll pop that bearing out. So just hang on. All right, I've got my vise set up. I got my drifter, my little punch. And now I'm just going to go down through the top. And then remember there's spacers in there, so I'm just going to find the edges of that old bearing. Remember, like I said, I'm replacing these bearings, so I don't care about the old bearings. And I've got a ball peen hammer. You can use anything. So just kind of tap around, try to bring the bearing out evenly. That's all you have to do. Just keep moving around. And I can feel it coming. Now remember, again, when this pops out, when you lift it back up, the bearing's out. So just remember to look. So there's the bearing. And to remember to look in which way these are sitting in there. Alright, well this one just has two sleeves. The other one had an actual collar on it. So there's two sleeves, so these aren't important which way they go back in. They are what they are. So that's one bearing out. You don't need to push hard, they come out pretty easy. This one's going to be a little longer. Gone, just like so. So here we are. So there's two bearings gone, out. Pretty straightforward stuff. You clean up the area a bit, so let me get that done and we'll get putting the new ones back in. Alright, got her cleaned up. You choose what you want to clean it with. I used some brake cleaner and I cleaned out around the bearing seating area. So you have a little lip there that the bearing seats on, and there's one over here. I also have a seal installer, which I can use for these bearings. It's fine to use. For heavier bearings, you'd want the actual bearing installer, but that's fine. We're not dealing with that today. So what I'm using, these are 6204 2RS. So this is the bearing size. Those numbers mean things in millimeters for the shaft size and all that stuff. Shaft, height of the bearing, diameter of the bearing. Everyone may be different, but I have a feeling that most of them are these 6204s. The 2RS is, the 2 is for the rubber seals, one on each side. And that's what it is, rubber seal. So double rubber sealed. Now this is what I want to talk to you about when you buy, if you're buying the spindles. You'll see them online where they have grease fittings in them. They'll have a grease fitting in the side somewhere, sometimes on the top. Well, in my opinion, and of course opinions are, if you've watched my channel, you've heard me say it before, what opinions are. We'll leave it at that. So you have to take it for my opinion for what it's worth. So now you have a grease fitting that goes in and fills this area with grease, but yet you have a bearing with two seals on it. So how is the grease getting into the bearing? Now you can pop, if you want, if you really feel you want to get the grease in the bearing, you can pop this one of the seals out easy, the inner ones, they'll come out easy, no problem. Just pick them out with a knife, sharp point something, pick or something, pull them right out. I don't see the point. These bearings, 10 bearings, cost $34 delivered to my house. I'm using 4 bearings to rebuild this deck, and I've had this mower for 10 years. So I'm gonna have I'll have 6 more bearings to work with. So I don't see the point in worrying about the grease fittings. Just my opinion. Put them in, live with it. So let's get at her, talking about putting it in. So I've got my seal. I hope you can see that. I've got my bearing. Yeah. Out of the way. And make sure it's in, and just tap it down in place. So you can see it, but it's not a big deal. And like all bearing installs, you'll feel it when it comes up hard. And it is. You don't have to pound the crap out of it. Now, when you do the other side, make sure you add these 2 bushings. Don't forget the bushings. And you'll have to play with it a little bit to get the shaft back in. So we'll grab the other bearing. Now, if you want the grease fittings, hey, don't let me stop you. But what are you going to do now? You have to grease them all the time or water gets in them. And if you don't have a relief hole somewhere in the case, like another hole to let the air out, you're going to push your bearing seals off the other side, and you'll have open bearings anyway. Just my opinion again. So make sure that you're putting these in nice. You can actually start these. You can almost push them in by hand. It's pretty straightforward. Again, you don't have to pound hard on them, just light taps. There, you heard it hit. That's done. Now, there you go. You have a rebuilt spindle. All right, now that you've got the bearings in, you might want to hold on to this, because when you're pushing this in, these aren't in very tight. When you're pushing this bearing, you'll just put your finger on that one till you find the bushings, because this bearing actually pushes back out easily. So that's it right there. So there's your rebuilt spindle. So now you want to get your the rest of your stuff, your parts. All right, so now that you've got your spindle in, you want to put the pulley back on. Don't forget the little spacer. Like so. And this will fall down if you don't hold it with something, so just keep it in, just kind of snug it. I'm using my vise just snug it to hold it there, so the shaft doesn't fall back down. Put the spindle nut back on. I don't know what the torque of these are. I'll torque them probably 25 pounds or so when I get her all back together. And that's it. It's as simple as that. So I already did the other one, so I'm ready to put these back together. So hopefully you find this helpful, someone finds this helpful, and it's a pretty simple job. So I think anybody really with a few basic tools and a tiny bit of know-how can change their own bearings. And again, if you want to buy the whole spindle, hey, don't let me stop you. I don't disagree with that. I don't see the point in it as long as your casings are in good shape. Now, if you ran the thing and this is all broken, well, for sure, you're going to have to change the case, the housing, because they are only like a pot metal or something like that, so they're not super strong. But if your bearing's gone, if you catch it soon enough, then it'll work for you. My recommendation is, now after I've done this and how simple it is, I mean, do it every couple or 3 years. What's the harm? You got to take the blades off and sharpen them anyway. I mean, you don't have to change the bearings every time, but there's no harm in changing the bearings even 5 years. Like I say, 10 years on this one. All right, so that's it. Thanks for watching. Hopefully you found that useful. And take care, and we'll see you in the next one.